Ecological disasters refer to catastrophic events caused by human activities or natural phenomena that result in severe damage to ecosystems and the environment. These disasters can take various forms, such as oil spills, deforestation, wildfires, and pollution. One of the most well-known ecological disasters is the Exxon Valdez oil spill in 1989, which released millions of gallons of crude oil into the waters of Alaska, causing extensive harm to marine life and coastal habitats. Another example is the deforestation of the Amazon rainforest, where large areas of vital biodiversity hotspots are being cleared for agricultural purposes, leading to the loss of countless plant and animal species. The impact of ecological disasters on biodiversity is profound, as they can disrupt food chains, destroy habitats, and threaten the survival of numerous species. Biodiversity loss resulting from these disasters can have far-reaching consequences, affecting ecosystem stability, human well-being, and the overall health of the planet. It is crucial to understand the causes and effects of ecological disasters to develop effective strategies for prevention and mitigation. By raising awareness, implementing sustainable practices, and advocating for conservation efforts, we can work towards safeguarding biodiversity and protecting our natural world for future generations. Ecological disasters come in various forms, each with devastating consequences for biodiversity and the environment. One notable example is the Chernobyl nuclear disaster that occurred in 1986 in Ukraine. The explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant released a massive amount of radioactive material into the atmosphere, contaminating the surrounding area and causing long-term ecological damage. The disaster led to the evacuation of thousands of people and left a vast exclusion zone where wildlife has reclaimed the abandoned land, albeit with genetic mutations and health issues. Another significant ecological disaster is the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in 2010. Where an offshore drilling rig in the Gulf of Mexico exploded, releasing millions of barrels of oil into the ocean. The spill had catastrophic effects on marine life, with thousands of birds, sea turtles, and marine mammals found dead or injured. The oil also contaminated coastal habitats, affecting fisheries and ecosystems for years to come. Deforestation is another widespread ecological disaster, with the Amazon rainforest being a prime example. The rapid clearing of forests for agriculture, logging, and urban development has led to the loss of biodiversity and vital ecosystems. The Amazon, known as the lungs of the earth, plays a crucial role in regulating the global climate and harboring countless plant and animal species. The destruction of this rainforest not only threatens biodiversity, but also contributes to climate change and the loss of indigenous cultures. Pollution is a pervasive ecological disaster that affects ecosystems worldwide. One striking example is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a massive accumulation of plastic debris in the Pacific Ocean. This floating garbage island poses a significant threat to marine life, with animals ingesting plastic and becoming entangled in trash. The pollution not only harms wildlife, but also contaminates the food chain, ultimately impacting human health. These examples highlight the urgent need for proactive measures to prevent and mitigate ecological disasters, safeguarding biodiversity and the health of our planet. Ecological disasters have a profound impact on biodiversity, disrupting ecosystems and threatening the survival of countless plant and animal species. One of the most significant effects of ecological disasters on biodiversity is habitat destruction. When disasters such as deforestation, oil spills, or wildfires occur, they can wipe out entire habitats, leaving species without homes or sources of food. This loss of habitat can lead to population declines and even extinction for some species. For example, the Amazon rainforest, one of the most biodiverse regions on Earth, is facing unprecedented levels of deforestation, resulting in the displacement and endangerment of numerous plant and animal species. Another critical impact of ecological disasters on biodiversity is the disruption of food chains. Ecosystems rely on intricate food webs where each species plays a specific role. When a disaster strikes and wipes out key species or habitats, it can have cascading effects throughout the entire ecosystem. For instance, the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico had devastating consequences for marine biodiversity. The oil contamination disrupted the food chain, leading to mass die-offs of fish, seabirds, and other marine organisms. Additionally, ecological disasters can result in genetic mutations and health issues for wildlife. Exposure to pollutants, radiation, or other harmful substances can cause genetic abnormalities in animals, affecting their ability to reproduce and survive. In the aftermath of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, wildlife in the exclusion zone showed signs of genetic mutations and reproductive problems due to radiation exposure. Furthermore, ecological disasters can lead to the spread of invasive species. When natural habitats are destroyed or altered by disasters, it creates opportunities for invasive species to thrive and outcompete native species. These invasive species can disrupt ecosystems, outcompete native species for resources, and further contribute to biodiversity loss. For example, the introduction of non-native species like the zebra mussel in the Great Lakes region has had detrimental effects on native aquatic species and ecosystems. Overall, the impact of ecological disasters on biodiversity is far-reaching and long-lasting. It not only threatens the survival of individual species, but also undermines the resilience and stability of entire ecosystems. To address these challenges, proactive measures such as habitat restoration, pollution control, and sustainable resource management are essential. By protecting biodiversity and restoring ecosystems, we can mitigate the impacts of ecological disasters and ensure a healthier planet for future generations. Biodiversity loss is a pressing issue that has been exacerbated by various ecological disasters and human activities. Let's delve into some case studies that highlight the significant impact of biodiversity loss on ecosystems and species. One notable case study is the decline of the monarch butterfly population in North America. Monarch butterflies are iconic pollinators known for their annual migration from Canada to Mexico. However, habitat loss due to deforestation, pesticide use, and climate change has led to a sharp decline in monarch butterfly numbers. The loss of milkweed plants, which serve as the primary food source for monarch caterpillars, has disrupted their life cycle and migration patterns. Conservation efforts are underway to protect monarch butterfly habitats and restore milkweed populations to support their recovery. Another compelling case study is the decline of coral reefs worldwide. Coral reefs are diverse marine ecosystems that support a myriad of marine species and provide essential services to coastal communities. However, coral reefs are under threat from climate change, ocean acidification, overfishing, and pollution. The widespread bleaching events, where corals expel their colorful algae due to stress, have resulted in mass coral die-offs and reduced biodiversity in reef ecosystems. Efforts to mitigate coral reef decline include marine protected areas, sustainable fishing practices, and coral restoration projects. Additionally, the plight of the African elephant serves as a poignant example of biodiversity loss driven by poaching and habitat destruction. African elephants are keystone species that play a crucial role in shaping savanna ecosystems. However, illegal ivory trade and human-wildlife conflict have decimated elephant populations across Africa. The loss of elephants has cascading effects on plant communities, soil health, and other wildlife species that depend on their presence. Conservation initiatives focusing on anti-poaching efforts, community engagement, and habitat conservation are essential to safeguarding African elephants and their habitats. These case studies underscore the interconnectedness of biodiversity loss with ecological disasters and human activities, emphasizing the urgent need for conservation action to protect our planet's rich biodiversity. Strategies for mitigating ecological disasters are essential to protect biodiversity and the environment. One effective approach is the establishment of protected areas and conservation reserves. These designated areas help safeguard critical habitats, species, and ecosystems from human activities and ecological threats. For example, the Galapagos Islands in Ecuador are a UNESCO World Heritage Site known for their unique biodiversity and conservation efforts. The establishment of marine and terrestrial reserves in the Galapagos has helped preserve endemic species like the Galapagos giant tortoise and marine iguana. Another key strategy is sustainable land use and resource management. By promoting sustainable practices such as agroforestry, organic farming, and responsible logging, we can reduce deforestation, soil erosion, and habitat destruction. The Forest Stewardship Council, FSC, certification program is a prime example of sustainable forestry practices that promote biodiversity conservation and community livelihoods. Additionally, ecosystem restoration plays a crucial role in mitigating ecological disasters and restoring degraded habitats. Restoring wetlands, forests, and coral reefs can enhance ecosystem resilience, support biodiversity recovery, and mitigate the impacts of climate change. The Loess Plateau in China is a successful case of large-scale ecosystem restoration efforts that have transformed degraded landscapes into productive and biodiverse ecosystems. Furthermore, public awareness and education are vital for fostering a culture of environmental stewardship and sustainability. By raising awareness about the importance of biodiversity, ecosystems, and the impacts of ecological disasters, we can inspire individuals, communities, and policymakers to take action. Environmental education programs, citizen science initiatives, and ecotourism activities can engage people in conservation efforts and empower them to make informed choices. Collaboration and partnerships among governments, NGOs, businesses, and local communities are also critical for effective disaster mitigation and biodiversity conservation. By working together, sharing knowledge and resources, and implementing coordinated strategies, we can address the root causes of ecological disasters and protect biodiversity for future generations. Governments play a crucial role in biodiversity conservation through the development and implementation of policies and regulations that aim to protect and sustainably manage natural resources. One interesting fact is the Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD, an international treaty signed by 196 countries, which sets out key principles for biodiversity conservation and sustainable use. The CBD promotes the conservation of biological diversity, the sustainable use of its components, and the fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising from genetic resources. National governments are responsible for translating international commitments like the CBD into actionable policies at the local level. For instance, countries may establish protected areas, wildlife reserves, and conservation programs to safeguard endangered species and habitats. In the United States, the Endangered Species Act, ESA, is a landmark legislation that provides for the conservation of threatened and endangered species and their habitats. Governments also play a role in regulating land use, resource extraction, and pollution to minimize negative impacts on biodiversity. Environmental impact assessments, zoning regulations, and pollution control measures are examples of policy tools used to mitigate ecological threats and promote sustainable development. By enacting and enforcing biodiversity-friendly policies, governments can help preserve ecosystems, protect wildlife, and ensure the long-term health of our planet. Community involvement plays a vital role in biodiversity protection, as local residents are often the stewards of their natural surroundings. Engaging communities in conservation efforts not only fosters a sense of ownership and responsibility, but also leverages local knowledge and expertise. One interesting fact is the concept of community-based conservation, where communities actively participate in decision-making processes and conservation activities. For example, the Masai Mara community in Kenya has implemented wildlife conservancies that benefit both wildlife and local livelihoods. These conservancies are managed by local communities who receive direct economic benefits from ecotourism and sustainable land use practices. Additionally, citizen science initiatives empower individuals to contribute to biodiversity monitoring and research. Projects like eBird and iNaturalist allow people to record observations of plants and animals, contributing valuable data to scientific studies. Community-led restoration projects, such as tree planting campaigns and habitat restoration efforts, are another way communities can directly contribute to biodiversity protection. In Costa Rica, community reforestation programs have successfully restored degraded landscapes and created wildlife corridors for endangered species. By involving communities in biodiversity protection, we can build a network of dedicated conservationists who are committed to preserving the natural world for future generations. In conclusion, biodiversity is essential for the health of our planet and the well-being of all living organisms. The impact of ecological disasters on biodiversity underscores the urgent need for action to protect and conserve our natural world. By implementing strategies such as protected areas, sustainable land use practices, and ecosystem restoration, we can mitigate the threats to biodiversity and promote a more sustainable future. Government policies and community involvement are key drivers in biodiversity conservation, highlighting the importance of collective efforts in safeguarding our ecosystems. It is up to each one of us to take responsibility and make a difference in preserving biodiversity for future generations. Let us work together to protect our planet's rich diversity of life and ensure a harmonious coexistence between humans and nature.